Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, my dear viewers. The topic which we are going to discuss today is the Visual Basic Programming Language. This is the chapter 2nd of class 12th. Here in this topic, first we will discuss the basic concepts of Visual Basics. After that, we are going to discuss the features of Visual Basics, and we will discuss the IDE, that is Integrated Development Environment of Visual Basics, and we will discuss the IDE options. Finally, we will discuss the Visual Basic structure, that is the basic elements of Visual Basic programming language. As we can see, the features of Visual Basics, the first feature of Visual Basics is that is it is a graphical user interface, which makes it easy to develop the applications. Being the user friendly, the programmer feels very ease to develop the applications since this graphical user interface has various inbuilt features. By those features, it becomes very easy to develop the particular application in the Visual Basics. Second important point in Visual Basics is that is the advantage. It has good debugging facilities. That is, if there is any error in the code of the Visual Basics, by the platform of Visual Basics, it is very easy to debug, that is to remove the error from the code of the Visual Basics. Third important point is that the Visual Basics has excellent IDE, that is Integrated Development Environment. By that, this IDE, the programmer can easily create, the run and debug the different applications in the Visual Basics. This is another important point in Visual Basics, that is it has number of inbuilt functions which makes our program easy to develop. With the different, we can say there are thousands of inbuilt functions. All those functions help us to develop different kinds of applications, and we don't need to develop a separate code. Instead of developing a separate code, we have the special functions, inbuilt functions. We can use those functions whenever we need those functions in Visual Basics. And last point here is it provides us the database connectivity with our software. That is, if we develop any particular application and we want to connect that with the database, whether that is Microsoft Excel or that is MS Access or that is like SQL, Visual Basics has the database connectivity. It has some special tools which help us to connect the software with the database. That is the advantage of Visual Basics. Now, Visual Basics is event driven. That is one of the important point of Visual Basics, that is Visual Basic programming language is event driven, meaning is that the code remains ideal until called upon to respond to some event. Or in simple language, we can say that is if we develop a code in Visual Basics, we usually develop that code on particular event, that's like button press or like menu selection. For example, if we develop a code on some button, until and unless we don't press that very button, the code remain ideal. The code that is in the background will not get executed until we don't activate that very event. That is, we don't press the button, the code will remain ideal. That is why Visual Basic programming language is called event driven programming language. As here we can see here in the diagram, an event is associated with the base code, and there are event procedures. This event, once we activate this very event, that is like key press or button press or some other menu selection, when we do that very event, the code in the background get executed. If we don't execute the event, definitely the code in the background of that very event will not get executed. Another important feature of Visual Basic is object-oriented programming language. This object-oriented programming language make it more powerful than the rest of the languages. Like we have the C language that was not object-oriented programming language. What is object-oriented programming language? The object-oriented programming language is that language which supports object-oriented features, and these features are, that is, in object-oriented programming language we have the concept of object, we have the concept of class, we have the concept of inheritance, we have the concept of polymorphism, and we have the concept of abstraction. All these features make the Visual Basic programming language object-oriented programming language. All these concepts will be discussed in details, like what is object, what is class, what is inheritance, what is polymorphism, and what is abstraction. These features make the Visual Basic programming language object-oriented programming language. That is, what are the advantages of the object-oriented programming language are definitely the advantages of the Visual Basic programming language. Now, the another important concept is what is IDE, Integrated Development Environment. IDE helps the programmer to create, to run, to debug the program in one application without to need to open additional programs. That is, it is a platform where we can design, where we can create, and where we can run the program in Visual Basics. So when we start the Visual Basic software, as we can see in the next slide, for example, here, this is the IDE. When we open the Visual Basic application, this very window gets opened, and we can see when we click here for file new, and stin.exe is by default highlighted, and we click on the open button here. Once we click on this here, this is stin.exe, we click on open button, a new window will come here, and in that window we will create the program and we will run that very program. So this IDE is the basic platform where we do our programming in Visual Basics. So IDE, Integrated Development Environment, is the platform of Visual Basics where we perform our programming and where we design, and finally where we run the program once that will get executed. So this is IDE. As we can see here, these are the like menu bar, and this is the form which comes in default when we open, and when we open, this stin.exe file gets executed. Now once we click on this, like I will go to back slide, once we click on this stin.exe and we click on here on open button, and we will get this very form, that is the IDE. Here, this is the main window, that is main, we can say the IDE with different options we have highlighted here. On the left side here you can see this is the toolbox. This toolbox, this toolbox we can get the text box, we can get the button, we can get these different timer is there, label is there, we have checkbox, radio button is there. So all these things we need, we just drag them and drop on the form here. Whatever you need, you just click on that and drag that and put on the form. So this is called the toolbox. Here this is the main window where you can see the file, edit, project, run. These are the different options of the main window. And here you can see here, this is the project window. In project window you can see the forms. If you have like more than one forms in a particular project, and all those forms can be like viewed in the project window. And you can see here, this is the folder. In this folder there is one form. Since we have in this only one form, if there are more than one form, that will be visible here. So this is the project window. And finally we can see there is the property window. This property window actually helps us to set the property of particular toolbox. Like if there is a label, we will get the we will set the property of that very label here. We will color, we will rename, so many, we will caption that very label. Since there we have highlighted the form, these are the properties of form, and we set the properties of a particular toolbox, whether it is form, whether it is like label or something else. We set the properties here on the property window. And this is the form. We can say this is the place where we put all things, and like we design the application on the form. That is the place where we put in the toolbox options, like we will put the image, the text box, the label, and timer, and other things we need, we put on the form. So this is the IDE with different, we can say, features, and all those features help us to design, to create, and to execute the program in Visual Basics. Now, what is IDE? There are the options of IDE. What are the different options of IDE? First, in IDE we have lot of inbuilt functions. That is, if we want to do some mathematical operation, we will get mathematical functions that are inbuilt. If we want to do some programming on like strings, we have the inbuilt string functions. And for example, if we have to define the date and time, we have inbuilt date and time functions. All those functions will be discussed later on. So this is one of the important feature of this IDE. Second thing is auto syntax check. Like if we write something, if there is some error in the syntax, it will automatically check that we are writing the wrong code, or we are writing the wrong syntax. User friendly, as already discussed, the IDE is very beautiful platform where any programmer with just basic knowledge can develop the application in VB. It is not so tough because the IDE is very user friendly. And the debugging facility, that is, if there is any error, it became very easy to remove that very error with the help of IDE in Visual Basics. And we require variable declaration. That is, for example, if you declare the variable, it automatically, we don't need to put the size. The variable declaration in case of Visual Basics is very easy, and we have different, we can say, data types, very strong data types in Visual Basic because of this IDE, that is integrated developed environment. And we have auto list members. For example, if we have any class, we put like dot operator after that, the members are belonging to that very class get automatically selected. So that very auto list members, we just need to put, for example, we have the function, for example, we have a string class, we put string dot, and after putting the dot we will get the options like max, where like concatenate, like we can say superscript, or we can say uppercase, lowercase. All those functions will get automatically highlighted when we put the dot operator in the particular class. So these things will be discussed in the later slides in detail. Auto data tips means like if we put mouse click on a particular toolbox or on particular icon, that shows automatically what that toolbox is meant for. So these things make IDE very strong, and that is why the programming in Visual Basics is very easy, and we can say the programs are being developed with with good environment, and we don't need to be like write codes. We just need to put the icons, drag and drop. The coding is very simple, the debugging is very simple, and we have so many good facilities in this IDE. Auto quick info, that's already I discussed with you. And finally, what is the elements, basic elements of Visual Basics? That is, what are the building blocks of Visual Basic? As we can see here in the diagram, these are the basic building blocks of the Visual Basics. We have like the forms, we have the controls, they are interconnected with each other. We have events, we have a reusable procedure, we have classes, we have properties, we have properties. These are the things which are the basic building blocks of Visual Basics. So all these things, elements, make the Visual Basic programming a strong programming language. So what is actually the form? We will discuss. The forms are the windows on which we can build interface, and controls are the building blocks of the user interface. Controls are also called the X controls, like we have the labels, text boxes, command buttons. We use them, and accordingly we code on them as per the need of the program. And we have the classes, they are the templates from which our objects can be created, and we have these hundreds of classes in Visual Basics. And an event, already discussed, it is an important concept of any window programming language. An event occurs in response to a user interaction, like key press or mouse click is called the event. If we click on a mouse, or if we press a key, these things we call event, and on these events we design the program in Visual Basics. And a Visual Basic is usually made up of forms and classes. A form is made up of properties, procedures, and events. So all these things, that is the forms, controls, classes, events, procedures, so these all are the basic building blocks of Visual Basic programming language. And by these elements, the Visual Basic programming language is more suitable than C language, because by these things it become very easy to code, to design a program, or to design a particular application, and finally to execute that very application. So these are the basic concepts behind Visual Basic programming language. In next topic, next chapter, we will discuss the control statements. That is, if we design a program, if we want to take the decisions of, or if we want to repeat some statement in Visual Basics, we will discuss those things in next topic. And till that, I am very thankful for your attention, for watching this very video. Request, just subscribe, like, and share this on the YouTube, so that the concerned viewers and people will get benefited. Thank you for watching.